Hello everyone, and welcome to Anime Dreams. Today, we dive into a fascinating fanfiction scenario. What if Naruko encountered her ancestor? Imagine the possibilities, the emotions, the revelations, and the power that could awaken from such a meeting. Disclaimer: this content is created purely for entertainment and discussion. I do not own any of the anime footage used in this video. All rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. So without further ado, let's jump right in. A young girl could be seen sprinting through the lush forest surrounding the village hidden in the leaves, Konoha. She wore a bright orange jumpsuit that stood out vividly against the greenery, her golden hair shining in the sunlight as it danced behind her. Her crystal blue eyes were focused ahead, and soft, whisker-like markings adorned her cheeks. On her back, she carried a large scroll, carefully secured. As she paused in a quiet clearing, her mind drifted back to the events that led her to this moment. Flashback, 8 hours earlier, Konoha Ninja Academy. Naruko sat quietly and alone on the swing in the courtyard of the academy. She had just failed the graduation exam for the third time and watched as her classmates celebrated joyfully with their families. She offered a small, hopeful smile as she watched them, but some of the nearby parents exchanged hushed whispers as they noticed her. Why is she even allowed here? Shouldn't someone have stopped this long ago? The words stung more than she let on. She turned away and began to walk back toward the classroom to gather her things. As she entered, she was stopped by one of the instructors, Mizuki, who approached her with a seemingly kind smile. He told Naruko about a secret way to finally pass the exam and become a Genin, by retrieving a special scroll from the Hokage's office and bringing it to him, without being noticed. Trusting his words, Naruko nodded and went to her apartment to prepare for what she believed was her final chance. What she didn't see was the sly, self-satisfied grin that crossed Mizuki's face as she walked away. Flashback end. Naruko shook her head to clear the thoughts as she unrolled the scroll and began to study the first technique it contained. Not far from where she was, Iruka-sensei was moving quickly through the trees, tracking Naruko's chakra signature. His mind raced with concern. Why, Naruko? Why did you do this? After several minutes, he reached the clearing and found her sitting with the scroll. Upon confronting her, Naruko explained everything, how Mizuki had told her it was the only way to become a Genin. Just then, Mizuki appeared from the shadows. Realizing his deception had been exposed, his tone shifted drastically as he revealed things that had long been kept secret. In a harsh outburst, he revealed that Naruko was the vessel for the nine-tailed fox spirit, a deeply protected secret of the village. It was a truth no one was allowed to speak of, especially not in such a cruel and careless way. Don't listen to him, Naruko. Iruka called out, stepping forward. A confrontation broke out between Iruka and Mizuki over the scroll. Iruka shouted for Naruko to run back to the village with the scroll while he stayed behind to protect her. As she turned to go, Mizuki hurled a massive shuriken toward her. Iruka jumped in the way and shielded her, taking the hit in her place. Naruko. You're not the Nine-Tails, Iruka said softly. I know who you are, and you're so much more than that. As Mizuki approached again, ready to continue the confrontation, Naruko stepped in front of Iruka with newfound resolve. With speed and strength that surprised even her, she delivered a powerful kick that knocked Mizuki off his feet and sent him crashing into a nearby tree. Her eyes burned with determination as she stood protectively in front of her sensei. You're not going to hurt Iruka-sensei again, she declared, her voice unwavering. Mizuki, still trying to intimidate her, laughed mockingly. You think you can stand against me? Without hesitation, Naruko performed the technique she had just learned from the scroll. In an instant, the clearing was filled with dozens, no, hundreds, of shadow clones, all standing beside her, ready to protect what mattered most. Mizuki's expression shifted from arrogance to fear. What's wrong? Weren't you confident just a second ago? The voices echoed in harmony as they moved toward him with unstoppable determination. The clones surrounded him, not in rage, but with the force of someone who had been misunderstood for too long and was finally standing up for herself. After the battle ended, Iruka called Naruko over with a gentle smile. "Close your eyes for a moment," he said. Naruko obeyed. When she opened them, she felt something rest on her forehead, a Konoha headband. "Congratulations, Naruko. You've truly earned it," he said warmly, pride in his voice. Together, they began their walk back to report to the Hokage, unaware that they had been watched. From a tree nearby, a girl with pale, shimmering eyes silently observed everything. Her eyes glistened, not because of their unique appearance, but because they were filled with emotion. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she reflected on what she had just seen. What have we done? She's always carried such strength and kindness in her heart, yet we only saw the surface. She should have been honored, not pushed aside. Did my father have something to do with all this? Hokage Tower, 0106 hours. Iruka and Naruko made their way back to the Hokage Tower to debrief Lord 3rd, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Naruko had officially earned the rank of Genin, and her mission was reclassified as B rank due to the successful capture of a missing nin. However, the celebration was overshadowed by something deeply personal Naruko had just learned, the truth about the nine-tailed fox sealed inside her. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Naruko asked, her voice cracking with emotion. "This spirit. It's sealed inside me. Did you think I wouldn't understand? Or that I didn't deserve to know?" Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Did you see me like the others did? Someone different? Someone to be feared?" Sarutobi had never felt the weight of his responsibilities more than he did in that moment. "Naruko, I didn't tell you because I truly wanted to protect you. I hoped you could grow up without that burden, to live a life full of joy and friendship. The 4th Hokage wished for you to be seen as a hero, not feared." Naruko looked away, frustration clear in her expression. "Well? That didn't happen, did it?" "I know it's difficult to hear," Sarutobi continued, his voice steady but filled with sorrow. "After you were born and the 9 tails was sealed within you, the village was overwhelmed with grief. People lost loved ones, and they were scared. I created a law to prevent anyone from speaking of the spirit or the seal. It was meant to give you a chance, to protect you and help you make friends. But they taught their kids to avoid me anyway, didn't they?" Naruko whispered, hurt and frustration bubbling to the surface. "I was kicked out of the orphanage when I was only 4. I lived on the streets until you found me. And now I live in that little apartment that always gets trashed on my birthday. Was that all part of protecting me too?" Tears streamed down her cheeks as the full weight of her emotions poured out. The sense of betrayal, the years of isolation, it was all too much. Before another word could be spoken, a blinding white light suddenly illuminated the tower, catching everyone's attention. All within the Hokage's office rushed to the rooftop, alarmed by the celestial glow. A beam of brilliant energy struck the rooftop with great force, leaving behind a small crater. At the center of it lay a mysterious young man holding a sword. He appeared to be in his early 20s, tall with bright blonde hair. Despite his efforts, he couldn't stand and collapsed, unconscious and severely weakened. Naruko looked closely at him. There was something eerily familiar about the stranger. He looked like her, just older and without her signature whisker-like marks. "Who is he? And why does he look so much like me?" she thought, feeling a strange, unfamiliar sensation stir within her. A gentle, feminine voice echoed softly in her mind. Could it be? After all this time? Over 700 years. What was that? Naruko wondered, but a glance from the Hokage brought her focus back. Sarutobi's tone was firm. No one is to speak of this to anyone. If word spreads, there will be those from every corner of the world seeking answers. That cannot be allowed. Iruka straightened and nodded. Understood, Hokage-sama. Naruko gave a quiet nod as well, though her gaze lingered on the mysterious figure. All right. But we're not done talking, Lord Third. I have more questions. But I'll wait. With that, Iruka and Naruko left the tower, each heading their separate way. Sarutobi turned back, deep in thought. Tora. Take him to the hospital immediately. I will follow shortly. The Anbu in the tiger mask saluted. At once, Hokage-sama. He quickly lifted the young man, grunting in surprise at the unexpected weight. Heavier than he looks. He muttered before vanishing in a swift movement. Sarutobi addressed the remaining Anbu. Repair the damage and remove all traces of what occurred. I want this place returned to normal immediately. As the cleanup began, Sarutobi prepared to leave for the hospital himself, his thoughts filled with uncertainty. Who is that young man? And why does he resemble Naruko so closely? He cast his eyes toward the Hokage monument, lingering on the fourth Hokage's face. Minato. I feel as though I failed you. This village never embraced the vision you had for your daughter. I couldn't make them understand, and now. I fear Naruko may never trust this village, or me, again. The joyful, smiling child I once knew is slipping away. And I can't help but wonder how I can ever make this right. Konoha Hospital, April 13th, 4 o'clock hours. A group of medic-nin and doctors stood gathered in a single recovery room, silently astonished by the patient who had just been brought in by one of the Anbu under the direct orders of the Hokage. The individual, a young girl with golden hair, had arrived with severe injuries and was in critical condition. However, mere moments before the medical team could begin treatment, something extraordinary happened. The wounds began to mend themselves. Her previously unstable vitals had strengthened considerably, now resembling that of someone peacefully asleep rather than someone who had just endured significant trauma. A chakra scanning jutsu was quickly employed to better understand what was happening, but the results remained inconclusive. What they did discover, however, was remarkable. Her chakra reserves were unlike anything they'd encountered before. One medic remarked that he had never seen so much chakra in a person, not even among the most experienced shinobi. The lead physician had just finished briefing the third Hokage, who had arrived moments earlier. And since then, she's been resting quietly, as though nothing had happened, the doctor explained. Hiruzen Sarutobi furrowed his brow in deep thought. That healing speed. Only Naruko or other Jinchuriki have demonstrated regeneration like this. I need to understand more. He turned toward the nearest Anbu guard. Send for Inoiki Yamanaka immediately. Tell him it's urgent. The Anbu saluted promptly and disappeared to carry out the task. Roughly 30 minutes later, Inoiki stood before the Hokage, being briefed on the situation. Let me make sure I understand this, Inoiki said. You'd like me to enter her mind while she's unconscious to learn who she is and why she's here? That's correct, Sarutobi replied. If you detect any signs of danger or mental instability, withdraw immediately. We'll handle things through other methods. In the meantime, I have a few theories of my own I'd like to confirm. Inoiki nodded and took a seat beside the mysterious girl. With practiced ease, he activated his clan's unique jutsu, placing his palm gently near her temple. Inside the stranger's mindscape. Inoiki opened his eyes to find himself standing in a long, dimly lit corridor, its walls lined with heavy wooden doors stretching endlessly in both directions. Interesting. This mind seems to be well organized. He thought as he selected the nearest door and gently turned the handle. The room beyond resembled a planning chamber, complete with a large table, cozy chairs, and a projector aimed at a blank screen. Inoiki flipped the switch and quietly took a seat as the reel began to play. These must be memories. He realized, observing the scene that unfolded before him. A cheerful red-haired young woman appeared, strikingly familiar in appearance. Inoiki blinked in surprise. Keikushina Uzumaki? No. She's far too young. Could this be her daughter? The girl beamed with joy as she tugged a boy along by the hand. Ichigo-kun. Come on, let's go. She giggled. So his name is Ichigo. Judging by the tone of these memories, they seem to be pleasant ones. He comes across as a kind-hearted individual. Inoiki continued watching as the memories shifted. Now, Ichigo was engaged in what looked like combat, facing strange mechanical opponents and unnatural creatures that seemed resistant to typical attacks. When he concentrated, the very air and water around him responded, forming dragons of wind and water that surged forward, elegantly subduing the threats. Incredible. Is he using wind and water release without hand seals? It's as if the elements themselves answer to his will. This is beyond anything I've seen. The next memory featured Ichigo using exceptional taijutsu, moving at such speeds that he appeared as little more than a blur, his fighting style a seamless blend of strength and grace, executed with mastery. Eventually, the reel stopped. Inoki leaned back thoughtfully. Who is this person? His strength and skill are far beyond what I expected. And those places, where were they? He's not from anywhere nearby, that much is clear. Suddenly, a voice called out from behind him. Who are you? What are you doing in my mind? Inoki turned around calmly. Standing in the doorway was the very individual whose memories he had been watching, Ichigo, looking more curious than upset. This was a rare occurrence. Most subjects remained unaware of his presence during such mental visits. But this one had detected him. I am Inoki Yamanaka, he introduced respectfully. A shinobi from the Hidden Leaf Village. That's where you are now, specifically, in the hospital. You arrived with serious injuries, but your body healed itself in an astonishingly short time. Because of the unusual circumstances of your appearance, and your incredible healing capabilities, the Hokage asked me to explore your mind, to ensure you weren't a threat. Ichigo blinked, then gave a small nod. So? You saw me fight? Yes, I did. I must say, I was truly impressed. Your level of elemental control over water hasn't been seen since the second Hokage. Your proficiency in taijutsu is remarkable, it's at a level that could challenge even our own village's specialist. Especially for someone so young, Inoki said with genuine admiration. Ichigo looked stunned. He didn't expect this. There was no fear, no suspicion, just honest respect. You're not afraid? You don't think I'm dangerous, like so many others seem to think about Shina and me? Inoki raised an eyebrow, his tone calm. Why would I be? You haven't shown any signs of hostility. In fact, I'd like you to meet our leader. I'm sure he would be open to offering you and your companion a place in our village. Wait, where is she? Did you see a young woman with red hair and green eyes? Inoki's expression turned regretful. No. You were the only one we found. But let's return to what we were discussing. Ichigo's shoulders dropped, his face shadowed with worry as the room around them faded, revealing a city heavily damaged from conflict. Flashback. Ichigo stood silently amid the remnants of the town he and Shina had been staying in. The once peaceful area had been overtaken by chaos. Machines and strange creatures had tracked them relentlessly since they escaped the Erebus labs. Earlier, Shina had been hurt in a confrontation and hadn't recovered quickly. Ichigo had hidden her in a safe spot, vowing to hold the enemy off as long as he could. He carried a unique blade that could bend like a whip. Using his elemental abilities and agility, he faced off against wave after wave of opponents. They're determined this time. Whoever's behind this wants us captured no matter what. He muttered as he blocked another attack. All right. Time to push harder. The rain poured steadily, which played in his favor. He manipulated the water and wind around him, launching projectiles in every direction to slow their advance. After a relentless hour of fighting, Ichigo's energy was nearly drained. He fought through exhaustion, thinking only of protecting Shina. I can't let anything happen to her. I care about her more than anything. Just when it seemed he might collapse, a powerful roar echoed through the air, stunning everyone. A colossal fox leapt into view, surrounding Ichigo with several of its 9 sweeping tails to shield him. With a swift motion, the mighty creature repelled the remaining attackers. Perched on the fox's snout was a young woman with bright red hair blazing like fire. Ichigo. You're safe. She cried in relief, leaping down and wrapping him in a tight embrace. She found me and brought me back to you. She added, gesturing to the majestic fox. Ichigo looked up at the creature, gratitude shining in his eyes. Thank you. Saki. You saved her. I owe you more than words can express. The fox, speaking with a soft and unexpectedly feminine voice, replied, No. If anything, I am repaying the debt that my kind owes to both of you. I will watch over you, and any future generations you might raise. There was a playful tone in her words, but her sincerity was unmistakable. You have my word. Ichigo reached up, resting a hand gently on her snout, still holding Shina close. Thank you, Kyubi. Suddenly, a distant sound drew their attention, something large flying through the air, followed by a heavy object landing nearby. Ichigo's face turned serious. It's an N2 device. Saki, protect her. He shouted, raising a chakra shield around them with the last of his energy. Saki didn't hesitate. She extended her tails, forming a second barrier around Shina. The explosion that followed was intense, sending powerful shockwaves through the area. Ichigo's shield began to falter from exhaustion. At that critical moment, the collision of energies tore open a rift in space and time. A swirling vortex formed and, in a moment of weakness, pulled Ichigo into it. The last thing he heard was two desperate voices calling out to him. No. Dash. End flashback. Inoki sank into one of the room's chairs, overwhelmed by what he had just discovered. The Kyubi. What exactly was your connection to the Kyubi no Kitsune? He asked, his tone filled with concern and urgency. Were you somehow responsible for its appearance in the village 12 years ago? Ichigo stared at him, bewildered. What? Of course not. You just saw everything in my memories. The Kyubi was once a peaceful, gentle fox spirit. She and 8 others were captured and turned into tools of power. Shina and I were created to be their partners, and tools ourselves. We managed to escape, thanks to the help of 3 individuals who had a change of heart. They were Gorin Hyuga, Kyohaku Senju, who originally helped locate and contain the spirits, and Futaba Yuhi, who was part of the team that engineered Shina and me from ordinary human children. Senju. Hyuga. Yui? What is happening here? Inoki thought, stunned. But he isn't lying. I would have sensed it if he was. Then he paused, realization dawning. Those names, those places, those events. There's no mistaking it. He's actually from the Presage era. The thought struck him with quiet awe, followed by a somber reflection. Sadly, everyone he once knew must be gone by now. He truly is alone. The last of his kind. Suddenly, Ichigo felt a subtle shift within his mind. Well, it looks like I'm about to wake up. We'll continue this conversation in the real world, he said calmly, gently guiding Inoki's mind back to his own body. Time to figure out what's really happening around here, Ichigo murmured, preparing himself for what lay ahead. Konoha Hospital, 0630 hours, April 13th. Ichigo slowly opened his eyes, blinking against the soft light of the hospital room. His gaze settled on the man who had been speaking with him earlier. Now, that same man was in conversation with an elderly gentleman dressed in traditional white robes and a distinctive hat bearing the kanji for fire in red. Their expressions were serious, and Ichigo had the sense that they were discussing something related to him, perhaps even the vision that had appeared in his mind. Realizing that Ichigo was now awake, the 2 men turned toward him. The older gentleman offered a kind smile. Good morning, Ichigo-kun. I'm Hiruzen Sarutobi, the 3rd Hokage of this village, Konohagakure. According to Yamanaka-san's findings, it seems you've traveled quite a distance. Not just geographically, but through time, approximately 700 years, to be exact. Ichigo felt a sudden chill sweep through him. Memories of Shina's bright, loving smile flickered in his mind before fading, leaving a hollow ache in his chest. His vision blurred as tears welled up. This can't be real. This has to be some kind of dream. Please, no, he murmured, barely holding back the sobs. Hiruzen's expression softened with empathy. He gently rested a hand on Ichigo's shoulder, speaking in a calm, reassuring voice. I understand that this must be deeply painful. I've experienced loss myself. And it never gets easier. Inoiki, standing nearby, watched with concern. Though he had never experienced such grief personally, the pain in Ichigo's eyes was clear and profound. A few moments later, a young nurse entered the room quietly, holding a clipboard. Hokage-sama, these are the results of the tests you ordered, she said respectfully, handing the clipboard over. Hiruzen studied the documents with growing concern, flipping through the pages again and again. His expression shifted from thoughtful to astonished. This is remarkable. It's a perfect genetic match. In fact, it appears even more refined, almost as if he were the original source of the lineage. That would mean Ichigo is the direct ancestor of Naruko. His eyes widened at the realization. No wonder the resemblance is so strong. He looked up sharply. Who else has seen these results? He asked, his tone firmer now. Just me. And the technician who processed them, the nurse replied nervously. Hiruzen let out a breath, then nodded. Very well. I want you and that same technician to conduct a follow-up test. Compare his results with these two individuals, he instructed, writing down the names carefully. The nurse's eyes widened in surprise. Are you certain, Hokage-sama? I am, he said simply. And please, keep this confidential. It's important. She nodded quickly and exited the room, understanding the gravity of the request. Turning his attention back to Ichigo, Hiruzen offered a gentler expression. May I ask you something, Ichigo-kun? He said quietly. Did you and Shina-chan share a close relationship? Perhaps one that could have led to a child? Ichigo's cheeks flushed slightly, but after a brief pause, he gave a small nod. Hiruzen's eyes lit up with a smile. Then I have something that may bring you comfort. You have descendants. One of whom lives here in the village. Her name is Naruko, and she bears a striking resemblance to you. You mean? Shina was expecting our child. And she protected that child? Ichigo whispered, overcome with emotion. Hiruzen nodded slowly. Yes. And that legacy lives on. I think you deserve to know about Naruko's journey, and how she grew into the person she is today. And with that, the Hokage began to share Naruko's story, with honesty and care, offering Ichigo a glimpse into the legacy he never knew he left behind. Ichigo was overjoyed upon hearing that he had descendants. He and Shina had started a family, and over time, their lineage had grown through several generations. However, his expression turned serious when he learned about how Naruko had been treated. When he inquired further, Sarutobi explained the situation regarding the nine-tailed fox and how it had attacked the village on the night of Naruko's birth. The creature had been sealed within her to protect the village. Ichigo sighed deeply, placing a hand on his forehead. Even after all this time, people still struggle to accept what's different, he muttered quietly. Sarutobi, recognizing the frustration in Ichigo's voice, responded with a small nod. Your skills would be greatly appreciated here, and Naruko is now a member of our shinobi forces. You're asking me to join, aren't you? Ichigo said with a slight smirk, though he waved his hand casually. To be honest, I would have volunteered anyway. The Hokage's face lit up with a genuine smile. For him, this was a stroke of incredible luck, an ally with strength and wisdom. Maybe this is a step toward redemption, he thought, as the three of them began discussing how best to support the young kunoichi with the golden hair and fox-like spirit. Ichigo suggested getting an apartment adjacent to Naruko's, which would make initial and ongoing interactions seem natural and not draw unwanted attention. Sarutobi agreed, not because he distrusted all of his ninja, but because the fewer people who knew the full truth about Naruko, the safer and simpler things would remain. Not even her future instructor, teammates, or Naruko herself would be informed until the right moment. Through Inoiki, Sarutobi also learned more about Naruko's combat abilities and her connection to the Nine Tails. Though surprised by the origins of the powerful creature, Sarutobi became more understanding after hearing the full story. He even considered attempting to reach out directly to the Nine Tails, yes, her, to better understand her perspective and motivations regarding the village. Welcoming Ichigo into the Hidden Leaf's ninja forces, Sarutobi appointed him as a jounin and gave him the appropriate headband and vest. He also approved the apartment beside Naruko's and arranged a pay advance so Ichigo could acquire necessary supplies and settle in comfortably. Inoiki, still curious about Ichigo's unique weapon, finally asked, "So, Ichigo-kun, about your sword. What kind of blade is that exactly?" "Oh, that's my Viper blade," Ichigo replied brightly. "I discovered it a few years back, it just felt like it belonged with me." He demonstrated the weapon by striking at a nearby tree. The blade separated into segments like a whip and sliced cleanly through the trunk. "Pretty cool, right?" With the formal briefing complete, Ichigo was eager to settle into his new home. Inoiki offered to show him around the village, and Ichigo gladly accepted. Their first stop was an outfitter, where Ichigo picked up standard ninja equipment, new clothing, and a short sword for close combat. His signature Viper blade now rested across his back, and he also wore metal arm guards and fingerless gloves, fitting the look of a true Konoha jounin. After a quick meal, the two made their way to Ichigo's new apartment. Inoiki reminded him that if he ever needed help or information, he was welcome to ask. He provided his own address and workplace information before heading off. Meanwhile, back at the Hokage Tower, Sarutobi settled into his chair, the weight of recent discoveries pressing on his shoulders. His thoughts wandered through all he had learned, more than any historian in the village knew about the era before the Sage of Six Paths, the origins of the tailed beasts, and the purpose they once served. Just as he was about to close his eyes for a short rest, a nurse rushed into the office, clearly out of breath from running. "Here. The results," she gasped, handing over a set of lab reports. Sarutobi offered her a seat and a moment to catch her breath. The results didn't surprise him as much as they could have. They share clear genetic markers. Inoiki did say Shina resembled Kushina-chan so much. Perhaps the bloodline branched long ago, one leading to the Namikaze, the other to the Uzumaki. Maybe, just maybe, this is the second chance both clans needed. He turned his attention back to the young woman in front of him. "This information is highly confidential. Please ensure all related samples and records are destroyed. The same protocols apply." She didn't need anyone to explain the importance of keeping the Hokage's orders confidential. She understood the consequences of sharing sensitive information. "Hi, Hokage-sama," she replied respectfully before making her way back to the hospital to carry out her assigned task. Despite giving those orders, Sarutobi couldn't afford a moment of rest. The jounin instructors were scheduled to arrive soon for team assignment briefings. With a tired sigh, he summoned them in. 9 jounin filed into the spacious office, but 3 in particular stood out. One was his own son, Asuma, who bore the same neatly trimmed beard and fondness for smoking as his father. At one point, he had served as a personal guard to the fire daimyo. Now, he was set to lead and train the next generation of the Ino Shikacho trio. He accepted the assignment with a slight grin of amusement. The next was Kurenai Yui, a relatively new jounin kunoichi known for her calm and composed demeanor. She had been assigned to lead Team 8, which specialized in tracking and reconnaissance. While she was known to work diligently, her motivation to guide the Hyuga heiress came from deeper personal intentions. Lastly, there was Kakashi Hatake, the son of the renowned Sakumo Hatake, also known across the land as the Copy Ninja, or Sharingan Kakashi. He had been assigned to lead Team 7. Kakashi had long shown interest in mentoring the last Uchiha, but his reaction to the third team member was noticeably less enthusiastic. Naruko Uzumaki? Last in all categories, barely passing basic assessments. This is going to be a challenge, he thought with a tinge of skepticism. Sarutobi observed the group closely, his gaze lingering on Kakashi. He silently questioned whether the seasoned shinobi had truly grown from his past mistakes, or if he was still trying to avoid them altogether. I hope Kakashi understands how important this is. Naruko doesn't need more people dismissing her. If he treats her like the rest of the village does, well, Let's just say Ichigo wouldn't be pleased. He wasn't exactly calm when I explained why Naruko needed Anbu protection, Sarutobi thought, concerned. He understood Ichigo's capabilities well, strength beyond comprehension, calm in nature, yet fiercely protective. If pushed far enough, it wouldn't be difficult for him to cause serious consequences for the village. Sarutobi recalled the words once shared by his own mentor, the Shodaime Hokage, even the kindest guardian can become a force to be reckoned with when those they care for are harmed. Naruko's apartment complex, Ichigo's apartment, 0900 hours. Ichigo had just finished unpacking the last of his belongings and stepped out onto his balcony to take in the view. Though Inoiki had already given him a brief tour of the village, a few questions still lingered in his mind. He was about to head back inside to change into something more comfortable for training when he heard a yawn from the neighboring veranda. Glancing over, he saw someone who looked like a miniature version of himself. That must be Naruko. She's so small. Has no one been making sure she's eating properly? He wondered, studying the young blonde girl curiously. Naruko quickly noticed his gaze. Ah! What are you doing here? She exclaimed in surprise. Whoa there, kid. Ever heard of using an inside voice? Ichigo replied with a playful tone, rubbing one ear. Then he smiled and introduced himself. Name's Ichigo. Ichigo Suzumiya. See you around, kiddo. With that, he casually walked back into his apartment, leaving Naruko blinking in surprise. That guy's kind of strange. But at least he didn't glare at me like everyone else does. He might actually be okay, she thought to herself, feeling a little lighter. Suddenly, the voice she had heard the previous night returned, soft and emotional. It's really him. After all this time. Ichigo-kun, I've missed you so much, the voice whispered warmly. Then, her tone shifted as she addressed Naruko. You can trust him, little one. He means you no harm. In fact, he might even be someone who can help you, if you let him. Naruko's mind swirled with questions. It was all a bit overwhelming. Who are you? How do you know him? She asked quietly, her heart full of curiosity and uncertainty. I am known as the Kyubi no Kitsune, my dear child, the majestic fox spirit said gently. Naruko suddenly found herself drawn deep into her consciousness, standing before a colossal barred gate. A tag labeled seal hung from it, and beyond the bars loomed a truly immense creature, a towering fox, nearly as tall as a 30-story building, with 9 magnificent tails swaying behind it. Naruko stared in awe, her breath caught by the sheer presence of the being. But as realization dawned, admiration gave way to frustration. This was the creature that had been the cause of the way others treated her. Her amazement shifted into a mixture of confusion and frustration. You, she murmured, trembling with emotion. But the fox, known as Saki, continued, her voice calm and filled with warmth. Naruko-chan, please allow me to share my truth, the story of what truly happened the night I was sealed within you. I arrived at the village to fulfill a promise made more than 700 years ago to one of your ancestors, an oath to protect his descendants for as long as I existed. I was bound by a sense of duty and honor to guard your family. She paused before continuing. As I neared the village, I was suddenly ambushed and caught in a powerful illusion cast by a mysterious man whose eyes spun like a pinwheel. Under that illusion, I lost control and caused great damage. I was in a trance, unaware of what I was doing. My rampage only ended when I came face to face with the 4th Hokage, whose appearance reminded me of the one I had sworn to protect. The shock was enough to break the illusion briefly, giving him a chance to seal me inside you, she said with genuine sorrow, her voice soothing and gentle. As if to further demonstrate her sincerity, Saki shifted into her human form, a tall and graceful woman with fiery red hair, warm crimson eyes, and a light blue kimono patterned with soft maple leaves and honey brown. Her red fox ears twitched gently, and her 9 tails flowed behind her like silk ribbons in the wind. Naruko was left speechless by the transformation. She's stunning. The young kunoichi thought, her earlier emotions softened by the elegant presence before her. I'm sorry I got upset, she whispered, eyes glistening. It's just. All this time. Saki stepped forward with motherly care, gently drawing Naruko into the gate and wrapping her in a tender embrace, the kind that brings comfort and warmth. I understand, Naruko-chan. You've endured so much, heartache, solitude, and the weight of being misunderstood. Yet through all of that, you've remained strong. I am so incredibly proud of you, my little kit, she whispered, gently enfolding Naruko in her soft, warm tails, giving her a moment of true peace. As Naruko rested, her spiky blonde hair gently tousled by Saki's fingers, the fox spirit made a quiet vow in her heart. I will protect this child with all that I have left. I couldn't protect those who came before her, but I will honor my promise by standing beside her always. With that, the two drifted into a peaceful slumber, comforted by one another's presence. 4 days later, April 17th, 7:30 hours. Naruko's apartment. The loud, jarring sound of her well-worn alarm clock roused Naruko from her sleep. Groaning, she sat up, stretched, and began her morning routine. After a quick shower, she set a pot of water to boil for her favorite breakfast, instant ramen. While waiting, her mind wandered back over the past few days. She had gotten to know her new neighbor, Ichigo, a little better. They'd first met by chance in a training field, where she had stumbled upon him mid-practice. She had been amazed by the fluidity and power in his movements. His weapon was unlike anything she'd seen, it seemed to move and shift as if it were alive. Despite his height and build, Ichigo moved with the elegance of a dancer. With ease, he sliced through 2 wooden training posts as though they were paper. Ichigo noticed her presence. So, the little one decided to watch, huh? He mused with a grin. Might as well give her something memorable. The atmosphere shifted. The air felt heavy and still, while water began to gather and spin around the older shinobi. With a swift motion, he raised his hand, sending the water toward a nearby tree. It struck with such force that the trunk split in two with a powerful crack. It wasn't just the strength of the technique that left Naruko in awe, it was the fact that he hadn't used any hand signs at all. The water responded to his will as though it were an extension of his body. She couldn't help but admire his skill and wonder what it would take for her to reach such a level of mastery. Saki observed quietly from within the seal. She was well aware that he was showcasing his abilities to capture Naruko's attention, yet she was still amazed that any human, regardless of form, could possess such remarkable power. She understood his intentions, he wanted to help train Naruko, especially since no one else had truly stepped up to support her. The short, blonde-haired girl was snapped out of her thoughts by Ichigo's cheerful voice calling out to her. "Hey there, little one. Impressed by what you saw?" he said with a friendly grin. Maybe I should hear him out. She could use some positive encouragement. That was incredible. How did you do that? Naruko asked, eyes wide with excitement. Ichigo smirked, casually rubbing the bridge of his nose. That, my friend, is a secret, he replied playfully. What? Oh, come on. Can't you teach me something? Please? She pleaded, using her most hopeful expression. Ichigo stared at her for a moment before bursting into hearty laughter, dropping to the ground as he chuckled. Once he composed himself, he met Naruko's eyes. With a look like that, how could I say no? He joked warmly. Over the next 4 days, Naruko was practically glued to her neighbor's side, listening carefully to every word he said. They practiced chakra control exercises, simple hand-to-hand techniques, and basic grappling. In return, Naruko taught Ichigo the Shadow Clone Jutsu, something he found incredibly useful. They ended their days chatting over bowls of ramen at Ichiraku's, as though they had been longtime friends. Ichigo quickly earned the respect of the ramen chef and his daughter. The tall jounin had clearly taken Naruko under his care, and it showed. She would arrive for meals tired, a bit messy from training, but always smiling. In just 4 days, Naruko had learned more than she had in 3 years at the academy. All it took was a teacher who saw her hidden potential and took the time to guide her. Those 4 days became some of the happiest Naruko had experienced in a long while, both joyful and enriching. She now had a kind friend and mentor in Ichigo, who genuinely wanted to help her grow. On the third night, Naruko had a troubling dream that caused her to cry out in her sleep. Ichigo, concerned, rushed into her apartment, fearing something was wrong. Once he realized it was just a nightmare, he gently tried to calm her. "It's all right, kiddo. It's just me," he said softly, his voice comforting. Within her mind, the Kyuubi, a powerful fox spirit, was also working to ease Naruko's distress. The dream had shaken Naruko deeply, and the emotions were affecting the spirit as well. The fox spirit wrapped her tails and arms around Naruko's mental image, holding her gently in an embrace. "Shh. It's okay, little one. I'm here. You're safe now," she whispered soothingly, humming a soft lullaby to comfort her. Saki could sense Naruko's breathing steadying as she began to relax and rest peacefully. A tear rolled down the mighty fox's face as she considered the emotional toll the village had placed on this innocent girl. "And yet, they call me the monster," she thought. "They have shown more cruelty than I ever have. And this child has suffered for their misunderstanding. I'll watch over you while you sleep, Naruko," she whispered. "No more bad dreams will trouble you tonight." Naruko's thoughts were soon interrupted by the sound of her kitchen timer beeping. Her ramen was ready. She quickly ate her breakfast, cleaned up, and set off for the academy, one last time. That's all for now, everyone. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more awesome anime videos. Thanks for watching. This is Anime Dreams, signing off. Until next time, stay awesome. Warm regards. Anime Dreams.